right, today I've got Ian Bennett with Elevations Credit Union here again, and we are going to talk about all the crazy things that are happening in the real estate market, both nationally, locally, and all those things, and what it really means out there. There's so many different things out that are just clickbaity, and the headlines are this and that, saying the housing market has dropped 40% or 20% here and 10% here, and it's just going to be a whole terrible experience for 2023. And just like the 2008 crash, and so many different things are being compared to that and how that works. And really what we want to do is kind of break that down a little bit, and what do those stats really mean? Because, yes, they're true. And I always like to tell people things like that. Yes, they're almost true. It's just like, if I buy a lottery ticket, I'm gonna win the lottery. Well, it's almost true, but how often does that happen? I don't know. It hasn't happened to me yet. I probably don't buy lottery tickets anymore, that's why. But anyway, it's almost true that if you buy a lottery ticket, you're gonna win. So a lot of these headlines, they are almost true. So let's start and just dive into those. Ian, you've got some of those great stats that we were talking about earlier on, the 21% decrease and all that. What do those things mean, really?
Yeah, so I think the clickbait word is one that I love a lot. I have people, naysayers in my DMs all the time. Hey, man, it was a good ride for you. Real estate's going to be great moving forward. Look at all this horrible things that's going to happen. There was one CNN article that was sent to me that says, home sale pricing falling. And that's true. Mm-hmm. That they are falling. Yeah. What they failed to mention is that their last year home sale prices were up 21.4%. Mm-hmm. If you look at the CoreLogic survey, you'll see that it absolutely they went from 21 to 10. Yeah. Well, guess what? That's still an increase of 10. If they were to have fallen a full 21, that would have been flat. So that's home prices. Right. So we're having a 10% increase in 2022 instead of a 21% increase that we had in 2021. Absolutely. So you can spin it either way.
That gives us a 50% decrease, right? It's half.
Right.
So increase.
That truth is there. However, if you look year over year, we're still in a positive situation. Absolutely. And I think it's a disservice for the media to continue to tell us that home prices are falling and just really getting you to click through. And most people won't read all the way through. Or as you can see here on this chart, we're 10.1 this year. We're expected, or we suspect next year will be about 4.1, which guess what? Will be a decrease, but it's still not flatlined. Right. The reality is that home ownership and home prices are going to fluctuate, but home ownership is still a huge benefit, right? Mm-hmm. The average, I think it was 2019, the average homeowner's net worth was $255,000, where the average renter's net worth was $6,300. That's 40 times higher. 40 times higher. Absolutely. That's worth playing the lottery, in my opinion. I think the other part to take into consideration is I don't believe, well, let's go to the elephant in the room, interest rates. So interest rates are changing. They're going up, they're coming down a bit. Most people are thinking that they're sitting on the sideline waiting for interest rates to change. Mm-hmm. I do think there's a select group that can do that. And I think as we come into the spring, we're going to see all those people hop off the fence, the proverbial fence, and get in the game, and we're going to see bidding wars again. Yeah. With that said, real estate's going to go on. Mm-hmm. It's always going to go on. If you look at 2008, which is the worst real estate market we've seen in quite some time, there was roughly 4.2 million homes sold. Mm-hmm. That's quite a bit. That's a lot of If you think buy and sell side, that's 8 million checks going out the door. Yeah. We saw roughly 6.3 in 2021. So it's an uptick. But we're on target for 2022 to be roughly around that 5 million-ish. So it's not a huge decrease. And the data I've been reading says the analysts actually think next year, 2023, may be higher. So everyone's doom and gloom. This is 2008. We're going to lose the houses, so on and so forth. It's not the same, right? In my opinion. Yeah. And as a person that's sold on the market, understand. I mean, the biggest things that move consumers, in my opinion, are the 5 Ds, right? Yep. And I'll kind of explain what I call the 5 Ds, and you can tell me the experience you have. So the 5 Ds being diapers, diplomas, divorce, death, and diamonds. So working backwards, diamonds, that's marriage, right? If someone's getting married, whether you have a couple who each own their house or one of them owns their house, there might be a sale or a possible sale, but they're buying a new house. And diapers, well, they're family planning. People tend to, when they have more children, buy or sell their previous home. Would you agree?
They need more space. Absolutely.
Diplomas, what does that mean? I think that means something to the effect of either you've come out of renting and now you have a real job because you just graduated and you can go and buy a house, or maybe you have owned a house before and you can upsize and get a bigger house, maybe because of the family planning or what have you, but also because your degree and your pursuit of the daily grind. That's sort of the 6D, right?
Yep. Well, and even the diplomas of when the kids graduate from high school and stuff like that.
Good point.
Downsizing, upsizing, moving around again, following them. So many people and parents, I work here in Boulder and we got a great college and great college town. They're following their kids here because their kids are coming to school. They're loving it. And the kids are saying, I think I want to stay here for the summer. Or I want to stay here for the break. And the parents are like, well, why? And so then they come and visit and they're like, oh, we need to get a house here too. So, that flexibility and the different people, there's a lot of different opportunities for people that are moving there and just chasing their kids around the country. We get a lot of that. It's great.
Yeah, and I've noticed in the last 16 years in Boulder County and Denver Metro in general, there's a lot of folks that stick in the area. They come here to go to school, to learn at good universities all over the Front Range, and then they realize the lifestyle is what they want to keep.
Absolutely.
And then the other two, death and divorce, they're pretty straightforward, right? People prematurely die, they age out, die, what have you. Those homes, that changes, right? If you lose a spouse, it's going to change. If you lose a grandparent, it's going to change. Divorce, unfortunately, I think is on the uptick. I think it's about 52% of the population end up in some sort of dissolution of marriage. It's another D.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, when we come on economic times where there's inflation and so on, part of the downside of that is people realize maybe I'm not financially on the same page as you and we're not going to move forward.
Absolutely. And we just had to spend so much time together during the pandemic and the lockdown and the different things and the working from home. We got to learn a way more about each other, So right. A lot of times that'll shift over to divorce, or it can make you even a happier family, or it can make it so you really need more space.
Right. Well, I use my wife and I as an example. I mean, we've been together 22 years. We've bought and sold 16 homes. Luckily, death and divorce hasn't been part of that, but certainly diapers, certainly diplomas as we move up in our career. And then obviously when we got married, we bought our first house.
Yep.
But listen, I've had plenty of houses, but we want a different, from the last 2 years, we've decided we want more space. So we're renovating a house. It's more in the country. Those things are going to be constant. Those are the things that our society and our economic climate and so on, it's always going to be there. And I think the idea of thinking that the real estate market is going to come to a screeching halt is, again, it's just clickbait. Let's be honest. Media is there to sell advertising.
Absolutely.
And if you get to click on their thing, whether it's the headline is deceiving or not, they get clicks. They get paid per click, right?
Yep.
Isn't that how SEO works?
Pay per click, yep.
and honestly, it's the same thing with interest rates. I was doing some research about just all the topics that we talk about, right? And we're trying to add value, bring information, and just a quick Google search of interest rates at 8% all-time high in the last 40 years. And I'm like, what? That's not even right. I didn't see 8% ever.
Yeah.
And, we're the number one financial institution in the state. You know what I do see? I see loan applications up. I see more and more phone calls of, hey, we were going to wait till next year. Now we're thinking spring. I see the real estate market starting to pick up. I wouldn't be surprised if our market's going to be very similar to 19 with some sprinkles of 20 and 21 bidding wars.
Yeah, in the different pockets and all those areas. And I mean, it's terrible, but new construction is an amazing thing right now. So a lot of times, the new construction, whenever you go into any different market, it's going to be 15 to 20% more than a resale home, right? But for the last few years, it's like those new construction prices and resale prices, because of the bidding wars, are almost the same.
Yep.
And so now it's like, that's going to be kind of a big threat, I think, coming into, the resale market in 2023, is there's builders that are sitting on the inventory. They're panicked a little bit, and so they're discounting some even more. So now that's coming down a little bit more. And, those are kind of the pieces that are, I think, causing the decrease. So
Sure.
Is buying a new construction home a decrease in value? No, that's probably the top of the market most places, right? And so when you shift those, and then that affects the resale market a little bit, yes, some people can't wait for a new construction home, or that there's going to be such a backlog, and there already is. I mean, yeah, we got 5 houses out of the 64 that are new construction that are available right now, but the other ones you got to wait till spring and summer.
Right. And the builders are going to offload properties and slow down production and so on and so forth because they're knee-jerk, most of them, especially national ones.
Absolutely.
To what's going on in the economy. But we're still, as we've said many, many times before, we do not have enough houses for the folks that need to be housed.
No.
And there's enough of our population that understand that I'd rather have the $255,000 of net worth as opposed to $6,300. So the basic premise is, I believe it's mind over matter and mindset, something we talk about all the time.
Absolutely.
We need to be able to educate the consumers, and we need to be able to allow them to understand that, well, here's the real economics of your particular area and where you're selling. Because every single place is different. But the national average is, one more time, yes, we're down 50% in home price in terms of the actual sales price, but we're still up 10% year over year. So we're in good shape.
Right. Even during a recession and all the other stuff that the markets are selling off everything and all. Yeah. I don't even want to talk about the stock market.
My thing is all the folks that I'm talking with on the mortgage side right now is if they don't own a home already, there's no reason to wait.
Yeah.
And if they have a house and they're thinking about moving and so on and so forth, get all the ducks in a row, get totally ready for the road trip and have it packed. And maybe you just don't go right away, but the reality is when the market starts to change, that's when everyone else is going to get in it.
Yeah.
And all those deals are going to go away because there are people that are softening. That 10%, that's a softening in that sales price, in the list price. But it's going to come back a lot faster than we saw it slow down.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not an unreasonable time to make offers that are less than full price.
Sure.
And really what that value of the market is. And so do some research, determine, how to adjust those prices, and a lot of times, there's 3 different ways that I figure out how much a property is worth, right? Biggest one being, what's the competition on the market for that kind of home? Who is the competition? How much is it going for? And that's kind of the biggest part right there. That's the competition. That's how much you can decide what the home is worth, because that's market value, right? The second one is we kind of look at the past solds, see what's going on, what they did sell for in the past. But I mean, that's kind of like looking in the rearview mirror and trying to drive your car forward. So it doesn't really work that well. But, we still want to kind of see a balance and gain point, like, oh, we could probably get this, but maybe not. Then the third way is, the price index basically on that specific neighborhood. So yes, we have the average price increase on the area, right? Mm-hmm. It's gone up 6% this year, 3% that year, 4% that year. So we have the F8A charts on everything going back to 1979. And so we'll run your house against that for when you bought it, right? So then we can kind of see, where that is. And then of course, kind of clump all 3 of those together to determine what a house should be worth, right? And fair market value. And then that's really what we do when we go in for buyers, right? Is we break that down into a neighborhood. Right. And so we can basically look at the past sales, pull out my spreadsheet and say, well, this person bought the house here or here or here. It should be fairish around here. Let's make this offer, right? And so when you can make offers like that and have data to back them up, they're going to be more likely to get accepted if they've been on the market a little bit longer. Now, if somebody comes on the market and it's been day 1, don't try to lowball the offer because they're not desperate yet.
Right. Yeah.
Give them a week.
And the other thing is, the mindset around interest rates. I do think it's really important to understand that that's going to fluctuate all the time. Mm-hmm. And I think I said this earlier, but I'll just mention it again. I've never had anyone that called me up and said, the interest rates are dropping. I'm going to buy a house now. Well, you weren't thinking about it before? Right. No, I was, absolutely. Mm-hmm. But really what it comes down to is people don't sit, like, I've never sat on the couch or lay in bed and turn to Jill and be like, well, once interest rates drop, we're going to go buy something. No, something's already changing in our life. Yep. And it, for us, it was when we had one in the belly and one on the way. And it was like, one on the belly and one on the way.
Yep.
Our kids are 11 and a half months apart. We're like, we need a bigger place. This isn't going to work, regardless of interest rates. It doesn't matter. So we want to focus on what that long-term strategy is. And really, if we look at all this data and all this clickbait, but look at it historically, like you're saying, there is no reason to be hanging out waiting to buy a house and renting right now. Yeah. And that's what the consumers need to know. And I believe as a real estate agent, it's your duty to let them know that.
Absolutely. 100%. Me, yes, I'm investing in apartments and different things like that right now. Why? Because people are always going to want to rent, right? But I'm also going to educate those people and tell them how important it is to buy a house. So I'm using it as lead generation, So you got to help people and you got to explain to them the different benefits and why they should do those things, and then just keep people rolling and moving through, And that's, a lot of times I like to have people play the what if game, right? And so what if we bought a house for this? What if we could get this? What if, how much money? What if it was $2,500 a month? What if it's $3,000 a month? What if it was $1,500 a month? What are the things that we could get, right? So you just play those different scenarios. And I know a lot of times with the lending scenarios, it's like, people go shop rates and do all those different things, but that's more clickbait, right? Because most people can get all the same thing. And hey, if you want a decent rate or a better rate, guess what? You can buy that down from pretty much any lender.
And in our current environment, there's definitely the seller concessions are part of it as well.
Yep, and that's really helping, get those things to where they're affordable again. So
the positivity, in my opinion, completely outweighs the negative headlines. But you know what? CNN and all the rest of them, they have to figure out how to sell their product.
Absolutely.
And their advertising.
Well, and doom and gloom sells. I mean, even when everything was amazing, there was bad headlines out there.
Always.
Like, it's going to crash any second.
Yeah.
And it just fuels that fire.
Yeah, we can focus on the positive and the negative. I always, with my kids, I always talk about, we have the choice. We can be the victim or the victor.
Yep.
And it's absolutely your choice.
Yeah. And, the best thing or the worst thing, or however you want to look at it, is you don't want to be 20 years down the road and going, man, I wish I would have bought 2 of those houses instead of renting for 5 years.
Yeah, the only thing I regret is not holding on to more of the homes I bought.
Absolutely. And it's like, I could have, right? I could have kept
in hindsight
all of them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, awesome. I feel like, if you have additional questions, obviously reach out to us. What's the best way for folks to get in contact with you?
Yeah, we'll definitely put a link down below. We can schedule a call with us, book a call on our calendar. We'll put our phone numbers, emails, all that kind of stuff down in the description, show notes, so you'll be able to reach out with any questions.
And again, if you liked and found value in what we did today, share it with someone. Send it to someone. If it's not added value if you don't start adding it to other folks. And what I can tell you is when you go out of your way to help other folks learn and grow, you have all the abundance that you need.
Absolutely. And if you guys want to hear anything else from us, make sure you leave a comment. Let us know. We love to talk about anything real estate and what's happening right now in the markets.